Iran is threatening to
Yes.
bomb, to destroy Israel. So when Israel decides that they are ready to protect themselves and attack Iran, what should be the American or our stance on where we stand with Israel?
I'm a firm believer in supporting Israel, and I'm very concerned about the buildup of nuclear capability in Iran. I would not want Israel to make a unilateral strike against Iran. I would prefer that it be done by the United States, because my own feeling is if Israel takes unilateral action, it would create absolute chaos in the Middle East. If we acted in conjunction with Israel and made it plain to the Arab world that we were acting in conjunction with Israel, that would make the best of a bad situation. That's the way I would put it. I would not want Israel to take unilateral action, and I would counsel them to wait for us to take the action if it was necessary.
But in the event that that's not possible and Israel does attack, what do we do?
We have to support Israel. We have to support Israel. They are our ally. I would just hope, Alice, that it never came to that they did something unilateral without our foreknowledge and consent.
Just got a question regarding your the answers to your vetting questionnaire.
Yes.
Question number 26, you didn't provide an answer for, and what I'll do is I'll read you the question.
Sure.
And just a quick explanation. It is at best irresponsible and at worst deceptive to produce legislation that is 1,100 pages long in the first place. Therefore, do you commit to support requiring that any proposed legislation contain a summary in plain English of every action and effect of that legislation?
Okay. As far as, and this is really pertinent to the healthcare, bills should be posted online. They should be written in plain English, and they should be manageable size so that a layman can understand the gist, understand what the bill is. The only, what got me with that is a summary of the legislation, because I know that the exact legislation and a summary, there may be substantial difference. Myself as a lawyer, I know that a summary is not the same thing as the exact language, and the exact language can be very important. It can be the subject of lawsuits and controversy and all that. So that was my issue with that question. But as far as legislation goes, plain English, reasonable size, transparency, those are my three guiding principles for good legislation.
We have one question?
I have two follow-ups. Two follow-up questions. The shortest one first. With respect to gay marriage,
Yes.
you said you do not want the federal government to be redefining marriage according to something you do not believe. I recall President Bush proposing the idea of a marriage amendment to the Constitution. So, would you be in favor of that?
I really think it's a state issue, Tim. I don't think it's a federal issue. I believe in the decentralization of power, and I don't think it's the federal government's business to get into that, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Now for a little more detailed one, because this is going to come up sooner or later. Concerning the health care bill,
Yes.
and a vote that's unpopular with your constituents,
Yes.
At this point in time, there are many people who are being interviewed by health insurance companies who, because of the health care bill, expect a lot of work. So, in a way, there are going to be a lot of jobs created by this health care bill. If, as you said initially, that it would be almost impossible to repeal this thing until we get a president in the White House who would who would actually do that.
Right.
Then by the time 2012 comes around, opposing the health care bill, wanting to repeal it, might end up with a lot of your constituents becoming unemployed. What are you going to tell the voters when they ask you if you're going to cost them their jobs for the good of the nation?
Great question. Those are one of the, if I really believe that the health care bill is detrimental to the long-term best interests of the nation, I have to say to people, that's the way I stand on the issue.